Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pairfect, Daily Tribune's digital show that takes you up close and personal with trailblazers and winners in their field. I am Dinah Ventura. Joining me today is filmmaker Gabi Malvar. It's a pleasure having you here.
Nice to be
Gabi,
here.
may I call
Yeah.
you Gabi?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Sige. Glad to
So,
be here. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
so you're a filmmaker. You have this outfit called
The Extra Mile
the Extra
Productions.
Mile
Yeah.
Productions. Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Well, the Extra Mile Productions, it's a production house that my partner and I, my wife and I, put together. So we really focus on passion projects and stories and more or less documentaries.
Yeah.
We do have other clients that help us in our journey, but essentially we really do documentaries because I like to think of myself as a storyteller. Okay, not really as a filmmaker, but I like to tell stories. It just so happens that documentary filmmaking is the means by you can tell a story.
The story.
Yeah. So
Okay.
most of our stories are really, if you take a look at our portfolio, we've done documentaries about Tawi-Tawi or Sulu or Palawan.
Yeah.
And we've done, sorry, excuse me. We've done a few about the whale shark tourism in Oslo and things of that nature. Really.
The stories that are not really that easy to find. May I say
Well,
that? Because it's all in the news, I would say.
then the stories are there. If you go to Sulu, the stories are fascinating.
Yes.
Maybe part of the fascination is because number one, it's undercovered. Diba? Hindi naman siya napupuntahan masyado.
Yes.
So when you go there, it's not just the settings, it's not just the nice beaches and this and that.
Exactly.
But the people, tausug, diba? People of the current, and so and it's Islamic, diba? So it's different from the predominantly Catholic. So it's a different place. The stories are different. The narratives are different.
Yes.
So mas may pagka. The term is not novelty. It's something new. New in the sense that it's not new in the sense that
Or
bago yan.
how about
It's not being talked about yet and covered as much.
unfamiliar?
It's unfamiliar. It's fresh. Therefore, you can, even when you do it, you are fascinated doing it. Kasi wow, ang ganda ng story.
I'm curious how you started out with that idea that you could come up with a company or a filmmaking outfit that seeks stories that are not so, out of the ordinary. Di ba? I would say.
I
How did
started
that
out.
idea start?
I started out as a writer, as a travel writer. Not really a travel writer per se, but I like to write and document my trips. Okay, so I started out by doing a journal.
Okay.
So when I go and visit a place, I do a journal as though it were something that I had to submit to an editor.
Okay.
But it was actually the audience was me. So when I read it 10 years from now,
You would.
wow, and I'm reading it like from a point of view that there's someone I'm reading. So when you take photos, I take photos as accompanying images for that story. But it's really a journal. Okay. So eventually, I had
Was it an actual journal or a digital?
it's a digital journal. You write it, and then eventually I had a column in a travel magazine, Travel Life.
Yes.
So I was a contributor. It's called Viajero Chronicles. Okay. So I would tell my stories. But the plan really was to consolidate everything into a book. Okay.
Like Lonely Planet or something.
It wasn't about where to stay. It was more like an experience.
Experience.
A biggest influence of mine growing up, I read Shogun, the book. Okay. And it was so compelling. It wasn't just a novel about the politics of Japan. It was a novel about the people, about the culture, about heritage, and about the places, how they eat geisha, diba? The whole practice of ritual suicide, ganyan. The political structure. And so it really fascinated me. And the way it was written, it was really, I learned so much about Japan in the context of someone telling a story about Japan. but then you learn about everything.
Yes.
And so that made an impression on me growing up.
That
And
is-
so that I sort of like emulated my writing style. Not writing style, the way I tell stories based on that.
I see.
Okay. So yun yung
That was
yun yung
the
simula.
influence.
That was the influence. So when I wrote my journal, it was similar to that in execution.
Okay.
And then I started writing a column. And then my wife, si Gingay, said, this would be nice if people could watch it.
So it was Kinkay.
It was if people could watch it. Sabi ko, okay, we understand filmmaking, but we never did filmmaking. Di ba?
Yeah.
So we pulled our money together. Say, okay, let's do a sample pilot. So we pulled our money. I hired a cinematographer. I hired a sound guy. We went to Batad.
Batad.
That was the story. To talk about the Ifugao and the bulol and the rice
There.
culture,
Okay.
which the entire heritage and the entire culture around the growing of rice in the Ifugao region.
That
So we
was
went
the
to
first.
Batad. That was the first. So because we did not have any funds, so we were budgeting our money. So the host was Gingay. Yeah. And so eventually we shot over 3 days. And then we went back to Manila. We edited it. And then what we had, and says, okay, who do we show it to? Said my mindset was, okay, my biggest influence is actually growing up. It's a different time. It's not like now. So back in the 80s and 70s, you were waiting for Nat Geo, National Geographic magazine. Time, life,
Yes.
diba? It's really very epic. Diba?
Uh-uh.
Thor Heyerdahl and the journey across the Pacific in the Kon-Tiki. Wow, diba? Diba? Yan yung mga kwento nun eh. Adventures, epic adventures, and the way things were told from a naturalist standpoint and this and that. So that was the style. And then we, lakasan ng loob, we presented it to Nat Geo, Philippines. They liked it, and that was the start. Okay, so from then on, our forte was documentaries and storytelling about topics all over the Philippines. And then we eventually evolved into a style where we never have hosts. So we point the spotlight on so many things, and you let the locals tell about their efforts, tell about their stories and narratives. So yun yung style.
Okay.
So
Up to now, you're still doing it.
yes, up to now. So now we have this thing called Know Your North. It's with Victory Liner.
Oh.
It's the Victory Liner series, but the difference is these are mini documentaries, but it's not an advert. It's really about. These are documentaries about, and the thing is, it's about the North.
Yes.
It's about heritage, about culture. It's about tourism sites, so forth and so on. About national living treasures. So sari-sari yung mga kwento. So when you watch it, it can range from 4 minutes to 10 to 15 minutes, and varying degrees of length. So when you watch it, it's like watching a mini documentary. It just says at the end, Know Your North.
Nice.
Produced by Victory Liner.
Okay.
So in a way, Victory Liner, it's like it's their advocacy to tell stories
Yes,
about the North.
Where they.
But it's not really marketing
Yes.
it.
Ang galing,
Marketing
eh.
the stories, yeah.
So you're the one who writes the script.
So
or
we
you
do all
direct
we put out the episodes.
it?
So right now we have more than 80 episodes.
Okay.
It's in knowyournorth.ph.
Where can people see it?
knowyournorth.ph. Normally we release it on Facebook also.
Okay.
It's also on YouTube. So and
So you've been doing this for how long now?
the Know Your North or
No, their entire
From
filming,
about-
storytelling
since
career.
since 2010. 2010. So about 14 years now.
So
So
you
I-
really stayed with it all this time.
Yeah. So syempre, you do other things as well.
Yeah.
But but we've been doing this for like 14 years now.
So what fulfills you about this? What has been the most rewarding about what you do as a filmmaker, storyteller?
Mahilig ako sa kwento. Mahilig ako makinig ng kwento. At mahilig ako magkwento. I really like and I like pointing the spotlight on stories that will never be covered. That will never be covered initially.
Okay.
So what we've discovered is that, you know, sometimes we cover something, and then from there, it creates attention towards it, and then nako-cover na.
Yeah,
Yung mga ganun.
yeah.
Which we take pride in. Kasi hindi naman pinapansin yung kwento dati. Nung sinimula na, biglang naging, we take pride in that. But then, at the same time, if you're going to cover something which is already medyo common knowledge, you have to put a different angle to it, something that has not been discussed before, for it to be compelling. Diba? So for instance, if you want to talk about vegan, what else can you add to the 1 million articles and photos online about vegan? Napapansinin pa yung kwento mo. If not, then don't do anything about vegan anymore.
Yes, right.
Find another story. So I like that. I like pointing the spotlight on
Something.
compelling characters and compelling stories. For, ano yan eh, it's part of educating people about who they are. And hence, know your north. Hindi naman know your north, north as the geographic place. Diba? But
It's
north
also
as your inner compass.
yes.
Diba? Ito yung north ko. This is what determines where I go.
Yeah. Nice.
But you
Very
cannot,
nice.
you cannot, hindi mo makikilala yung sarili mo. Hindi mo malalaman sa kapupunta, hindi mo rin kilala yung sarili mo. So in so many levels, it's also about you being a Filipino, na kailangan mo kilalanin yung pagka-Pilipino mo.
Ang ganda.
To be able to, you know.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we want to teach. You want to be able to help build awareness, help build knowledge, and help build yung awareness. The more you know about yourself, the more you know about your culture and heritage, I think you become more discerning, and then you start having more critical thinking. I suppose it's part of education. So may mga bagay na gusto mong ipakita. No? Ito, this is a story about someone who makes coffee in Kalinga. This is a story about the national living treasure in Abra. You know, this is about the Sikia mansion in Vigan. This is about tambourine making, yung tambourine na ganyan, which is an intangible heritage. Na to a certain extent, you're also archiving.
Yes.
Kasi pag hindi, baka mawala.
Yes.
So you're
Tama.
part of the process to build the database of
Preserve our stories,
yeah,
our history. Yeah. Ang galing.
Yeah.
So, you've been traveling almost your whole life now. You've been around the whole world and the country. Yes.
I like going out, and to a certain extent, swerte. Because when I was working, it's not that I don't work now. When I used to work for the corporate world, you know, you get brought to different places. You get a chance to live in the
What
US.
was your job before?
I was with a global manufacturing company.
Okay. For how long?
In that particular company, I was there for like 9 years.
Let's do
But then I was really in the field of finance.
I see.
Okay, so yun yung ano.
So different from what you're doing now.
Yes, different.
What made you decide to leave that job? That world?
I mean, the arts. The arts. I was in theater in high school. I spent a year at the Conservatory of Music and all that. But back then, you don't really build a career on the arts.
Yeah, no,
So you needed to finish economics. You need to get a master's in economics.
a paying job.
Yeah, ganun. So you had to work like that. It's only recently where, because of the distribution and the portal and even the equipment that you use. See, editing suites that are used in Hollywood are available commercially to ordinary people. Di ba? Cameras have already, you could be using the high-end Alexa cameras. But there are cameras out there that can mimic, di ba? Cinematic yung itsura. So the line is, it's not may pera ka o wala kang pera. Di ba? You can use the same editing suite. You can use cameras that are almost similar. So nagpantay-pantay na lang yan.
Yes.
Sa
Level.
abilidad na lang. Di ba? Any kid, you can shoot
Yes.
using the phone. You can shoot, you can edit,
Yeah.
you can do it.
Easy.
Madali na. So, it's available. Distribution platforms are available. If you're successful, maybe YouTube can be a platform, di ba? Or TikTok or what.
What about you? I mean, you started out with, there were no such technology available then.
Yeah, yeah. But
And
the
you
thing
had
is,
to hire somebody to.
there was may inroads na
Mhm.
inroads na in, like you could use an SLR to shoot
Mhm.
already,
Mm.
okay? And
Mhm.
nag-evolve din yung SLRs, di ba?
Mhm.
Paganda ng paganda.
Mhm.
So, which enabled you to shoot, whereas
Mhm.
before you would have to hire. But an SLR 14 years ago
Mhm.
was good enough. Pwede na.
Okay.
Yeah. So, ganun. So you make use of things that are available to you. Then you find distribution platforms.
Mhm.
Yun lang naman yun eh.
Okay.
If you can have like an epic story,
Mhm.
but if no one watches that,
What's the point?
what's the point? Diba?
It's, okay.
What's the point?
Let's hold that thought.
Okay.
We'll just pause for a short break.
And this break is brought to you by Angkas, Beat the Traffic, Bayad Center, hashtag Bigger Better Younger Bayad, and you can buy it all. Globe, atin ang mundo. Meralco, ang liwanag ng bukas. SM, we've got it all for you. Smart, live more today. Union Bank, it starts with you.
Tune in to Daily Tribune's show aimed at addressing the needs and problems of our OFWs from different corners of the globe. Hear about their plights and success stories every Tuesday and Thursday, 3 p.m. only on Daily Tribune's Facebook page and Tribune Now on YouTube.
Straight Talk dives deep into pressing issues of leadership, politics, business, and more. Engage in insightful conversations with industry shakers, government leaders, and trailblazers every Wednesday at 10 a.m. only here on Daily Tribune's Facebook page and Tribune Now in YouTube.
And we're back on Pairfect. We're still with Gabriel Malvar, talking about his work as a storyteller.
Storyteller. Yeah.
Now I don't like to call you a filmmaker. But tell me about it. You are a filmmaker. You do tell stories through film.
That is the medium, di ba? That is the medium.
Mhm.
But I hesitate with using filmmaker because syempre, indie, underground ninja, that's the style the style of the productions. So, I'm not into the big studios type of productions. I don't, I've done bigger projects, but really it's more self-contained production systems and production teams. Okay, so you use film as a means to tell a story,
Okay.
which is very effective also.
So what's the process like? How do you choose the subject? Like, you tell stories about the Filipino, right? The Philippines.
Filipinas.
So yeah. So how do you represent the Filipino culture in your work?
I'll tell you a story now. When I was in college, I spent a year in Mindanao.
Okay.
Tumira ako isang taon doon. And
Because
weekend, I studied in Cagayan de Oro.
okay.
Every weekend, may ikot ako, ganyan. And so I discovered, this was 1980, 85, 86, 86, right? So it was a different time back then.
Yes.
And then growing up in Manila, and then suddenly you go there, and then going to Iligan, taking the bus to Bukidnon, all the way to Davao. Punta ka ng Marawi, magtatago ka. Yan.
My God.
Kamigin, naiikot mo eh. And then suddenly, this is a new world for me, which is fascinating. And then you find out a lot of things. Remember at that time, walang internet?
Yeah.
Walang Lonely Planet.
Wala
You get
kang
lost, you
guide.
get lost.
Yeah, you get
So
lost.
I went to from Cagayan de Oro, I went to Camiguin. So kailangan mo sumakay ng jeep papunta sa port. Pagdating ko doon, nakaalis na yung
Bus.
ferry.
Ferry. Okay.
And so hindi naman regular yung ferry.
Oh, you're
So
stuck.
you're stuck until the next ferry, which was the following day. So yun yung mga dilemma. So then kailangan mo makipagkwentuhan sa mga tao. Where to stay until the next ferry and all that. And then the stories are there. Dealing with people. So punta ka ng Bukidnon, punta ka ng ganyan. Then you learn about different people of different dialects. Ba't ako nagtatagalog? Kailangan ko matuto magbisaya. Kasi, alam mo yun,
Yeah.
that was my eye-opener to the world, to the Philippines. And then you discover, ang daming kwento, ang daming ganyan. And you get fascinated. So you visit different tribes, indigenous people rather. You visit, and then iba tong ano. Then you become more, iba pala yung bilaan sa Tiboli. Iba yung taga-Kaulo.
May
Iba yung Mandaya.
Okay.
Then you can, sa iba, pareho lang naman yung bilaan tsaka Tiboli. Mukhang pareho pero hindi. Amen. Then you get to look at the differences. Even in the weaving. Iba kunyari yung sa putangan, iba yung pisiyabit. Makikita mo yung patterns, iba.
Yeah.
Iba yung pag-embroider ng tausug. Iba yung, so even in the very concept, subject of hibla and habi and embroidery, nakikita mo paano nagkakaiba. And even on that story, sige, the what do you call this? The skill of artisans to do this and to do that. San sinors yung sinulad, yung, di ba, ano ba yan? Abaka ba yan? O cotton or what? Paano yan? Is that do they weave that using a loom, a hard loom? Or backstrap loom? Gano'ng kalaking loom? Ganyan. Paano yung patterns? Is it geometric?
So many
Or is it,
questions,
ang daming
no?
kwento. And these are different eyepiece with different styles. Just on that, wow, ang lalim.
Ito na, may story ka
May
na.
storya ka na eh. Just to compare all that, iba dito. And then you have so many eyepiece with different methods of weaving and patterns and what they use and how they dye and all that. That's just an example.
Yes.
But it's already fascinating.
Yeah, so
And if
many.
you can start letting all that sink in, and if you do something about that in terms of a story, whether it's a written story with photographs, natututo ka na eh.
Yes.
And then it opens up to, ay, pati pa pala yung yung metallurgical when they do their weapons. Iba pa. Ang songs nila and ang dance nila.
Iba.
It opens it up to so many things, and then it fascinates you. And then the places where they come from, dito sila, land, or dito sila sa tabi ng waterfalls, or dito sila katabi ng marsh, and the landscape affects how they behave, how they actually do their craft, how they live, and all that. And sa diversity ng Pilipinas, geographically, geology, and all that,
Yeah.
mountainous, forest, malamig, mainit, katabi ng ilog, katabi ng dagat. Di ba?
Yung dami.
Ang dami. And
You
iba-iba.
Yeah.
Iba-iba ang paniniwala. Iba animist, yung iba Muslim, yung iba Kristiyano. Ang dami. And just on a story, iba dito, iba dito. The
So how
more
do you-
diverse it is,
don't you get overwhelmed by all that?
you don't take it in one day.
Oo nga, pero you have
Kung
to discern.
kung meron kang isang case ng beer, hindi mo naman ubusin lahat yan. Pa isa-isang bottle lang, di ba?
Tama.
You savor it. Savor it a bottle at a time.
Okay, I'm curious now because I'm sure you've traveled before you became a filmmaker. You were traveling, you've seen the world, ganyan. Is that always how you've looked at the places you've been to? Kasi not like ordinarily travelers would just go, okay, see the sights, ganon, di ba? Very mababaw lang yung nila approach. Ganun ka talaga? Like that's how you really think or see the world even before you decided to tell stories?
Alam mo yung growing up, especially in how media was what it was back then, di ba? So kunyari, how old was I when I saw Sound of Music? Diba? Do you remember the first time I saw Sound of Music?
Yes.
Di ba, nung nanonood ka, yung aerial shot, tapos eventually nandun si Julie Andrews umiikot, tapos the hills are alive, diba? Okay, yun yung entry ng Sound of Music. Every time, syempre you've seen that so many times, but ako talagang hinihintay ko yung scene yan. Sabi ko, yung thought bubble ko, pupuntahan ko yan. Tapos yung ginawa ni Julie Andrews na umikot siyang gano'n, gagawin ko yan. Ganun eh. It can be like that eh. Gagawin ko yan. Okay. Parang ganun. Gagawin ko yan. And it could be Sound of Music. It could be, saan sila nag-solo farewell? Kaninong bahay yan? Pupuntahan ko yan.
Okay.
Sometimes those are just impressions that are set in your mind.
Yes.
Nanood ako ng lumalabas na yung edad eh. Si Live and Let Die, si Roger Moore. Naghahabulan sila, James Bond. Naghahabulan sila sa Thailand. Yung mga islands, di ba? Sa Panga Bay. Pupuntahan ko yan. Yun yung mga nasa isip mo. So sometimes you go there because of how media and then the experience you probably put on yourself. Kakain ako ng ganyan sa ganyan. Di ba? But then you watch something, you read a Nat Geo, Easter Island statues. Fascinating.
Yeah.
So yun, pag pumunta ako dyan, gusto kong intindihin.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
magka-camping ako dyan sa
That's your
gitna ng gabi.
process. Is that how you create a work? Like, what's your process? You start out.
No, the thing is, I go around because I like to go around.
Okay.
I like to
yes.
talk to people. I like to take pictures. I like to kwentuhan. Natututo ka. So, and then, as you have all that, it's just a lifetime of... I met this guy in ganyan. Pinakain ako ng taho kasi walang-wala ako. You have this experience, this litany of experiences of people you've met na linalamig ka, wala kang kumot sa airport kasi naghihintay ka, mas wala ka ng pera. See, lahat yan, dikit-dikit mo. Those become for example, makita ko ng
The fabric of your story.
And so I went to see the Mount Timbak mummies. Yung Ibaloy, if you see, di ba, Mount Pulag, yung katabi niyan, yung sa harap niya is Mount Timbak. Because in Ibaloy culture, they bury the dead. They mummify the dead. They put them in Mount Timbak, yung medyo matataas. Kasi magko-cross over yung mga mummified deities, they become deities, and they go to their heaven, which is Pulag. Yun yung mythology dyan. Yan yung belief system. So I said, sige, magmula sa... You can actually go to Mount Timbak using Halsema Road. Yung highest road. Tapos shortcut mo yan. But no, I decided, simula ko doon sa bangin, sa baba, akitin ko na. Which was, nakapagod, mahirap. Labas yung dila ako sa pagod. But that was the experience. Because, kasi inaakit nila yung mummies from the, mula sa baba hanggang dun eh.
So
that was the practice.
you had to feel
I had to feel it.
Okay, I see.
So I went there, ganyan. Pagdating ko doon, dahil medyo mabagal tayong maglakad, inabot na ako ng halos gabi-gabi. Ang plano ko was from there, bababa ako ng Halsema Highway, doon ako sasakay, pabalik ng Baguio. Okay. Na pagdating ko doon, wala na, inabot na ako ng gabi. Sabi ko, by the time dumating ang Halsema, matagal. So wala akong tutulugan.
Okay.
Malamig. This was December.
Yeah. And you're
So nakitulog ako doon sa mabait na Ibaloy, na may maliit na bahay, na yung pinakain sa akin na cup noodles, hiyang-hiya sila. Tapos I decided, hindi pa ako pinabayad, nag-iwan akong pera, pero hindi ako pinabayad, alam mong tinipid nila yun eh. Okay. Otherwise, giniginawa ko sa labas, pinatulog ako. So those are stories. Yun ang kwento eh. Yung pagka binuksan ng pamilya para makatulog ako. Kasi hindi ako pwedeng, mamamatay ako sa lamig kung natulog ako sa labas.
Yeah.
So that's an experience about the Timbak mummies.
Ang ganda.
Of But that becomes the basis of, so I went back, I shot a feature about the Timbak mummies. But then when you write about it as a story, yeah, I can do a feature about the Timbak mummies from, let's say, parang the Timbak mummies of Mount Timbak. But I can also do a feature as an article or as an essay about the humanity of people that take care of you while on the road. That is a different story from a story na cultural and heritage about the Timbak mummies. So dyan ang gagaling ang kwento.
Okay. And you're constantly like aware that there are stories like that around you, and just
Life is one big story.
Yeah,
Life is one big story.
And I think you don't, do you consider yourself fearless? Because like you go to places that are, not really that easy to go to.
Sometimes it's the fascination of I about 20 plus years ago.
Okay.
I saw a feature which was written by Sebastian Junger. He's a writer for Nat Geo. Okay. They went and visited the Lion of Panjshir.
Okay.
Okay. The Lion of Panjshir he is one of the freedom fighters who fought against the Taliban. Okay. Okay, si Masood, his name is Masood.
Okay.
Inakit niya yung kampo ni Masood dun sa Afghanistan. And sabi ko, ang ganda ng storya. The guy was a freedom fighter. And I said, shit, inakit nila yan. So parang ganun. The guy was so compelling. It's like, kunyari, panahon ng Spanish-American War. Tapos hinanap mo si pinunta mo sa pinagtataguan yung mga pumunta kunyari ng Biak na Bato para hanapin yung mga revolutionary nasa Biak na Bato. Parang ganun eh. So you went where the battle was because nandun yung storya. Not because you want to tell a story, but because the person was so compelling that you want to go
you're driven by that goal, that vision, that you want to tell that story. But getting there and all these things.
It's not telling the story. It's also more of the experience that I want to meet this person. You want to meet that person. It's fascinating.
Okay.
Fascinating. So if you always want, it's not just about it's a story I need to be able to tell. No, it's more of I want to meet this person because I think if I meet this person, fascinating na. Dami ako mapupulot, dami ako malalaman. May inspire ako o hindi ako may inspire. But it's just that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, recent years, diba, there have been advancements in technology.
Yes.
So has that affected the way you tell your stories or influenced anything in the storytelling?
There's so many ways to look at it. So for instance, you have virtual reality. Okay? Do you want to, or augmented reality? Ang story mo ba, is it in like a metaverse, a different metaverse? Or do you use of technology to enhance your storytelling? So, you can use of different technologies. For instance, a museum experience can be enhanced by that, diba? You don't have to go to the museum. You can replicate that museum. Now, if you're doing film or documentaries, do I use that in my storytelling? Do I want to include audience participation in parang gaming or purely arm's length, nanonood ka lang? So madami yan. Or do I use AI to write a script? Or hindi yata. Baka hindi niya ma-cover. Do I use AI to generate imagery that I can use when I use my animation? So there are many ways to do that. So it depends on... Can you use AI to do a VO already? Diba? Ang daming So it depends on how you want to tell your story.
Yeah. So in that way, it really does make you think a little bit different from the way it used to be, I suppose.
Now, you can be threatened and say that AI will eventually take over. Diba? AI, right now, they can actually, if the concept, remember the way machine learning works, it's a database. The more data you put in the box, then it can use that and process and spit out something.
But that's scary, diba?
But it's iterative in the sense na if they want to generate a picture of someone and they pull all the pictures about that thing in that box to spit out something. But if that photo is not in their database, hindi nila maiisip yan eh.
Tama.
Right. So think of that as ideas. If my idea is not in the pool that you can use, it's still original. So I think I'd like to operate in a space na hindi pa ma-AI yung idea ko. Kasi hindi niya pa, wala pa siya doon. Ngayon, pag linabas mo na, nandun na yan.
Yeah, nandun na siya.
So you can think of it in terms of that.
But still not the same, no?
So, no, I think it's something you need to accept. It's there as a challenge. So you have to find ways to work with it, or you have to find ways to. If you don't embrace it, you still want to work traditionally, I suppose.
You can.
Hindi pa na storytelling is storytelling.
That's right.
Diba? Storytelling.
For you, your views on it, like you use it to help you.
I don't use it yet.
Talaga.
Yet.
So
Not in
pure,
the
purist. Hindi naman.
Not because I don't like it. It's just that parang hindi pa naman ako. Pwede pa? Okay pa
Pwede
ang
pa,
ginagawa
kaya
ko.
pa.
Kaya pa. Yeah, so, yeah.
What kind of response do you get from your films for your work?
Well, the response can come from the people who have seen your work. Do they like it? So far, okay naman. When we enter festivals, we've had our share of festivals won. So another thing also, for our Know Your North advocacy, the NCCA awarded victory liner, the Gawad Gabay Award.
Nice.
because parang, oh, you've been helping in the promotion, and yeah. So that's a good, and so there is recognition, whether on the advocacy or on the technical aspects of the film. So medyo sinuswerte rin tayo doon. Now, if you measure our success based on traction, so we don't have, let's say, in the few things. Yeah, when we used to put our material on Facebook, yung mga Know Your North, there were videos that were like 3 million views, ganyan.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
May mga iba,
Konti lang.
hindi naman. But, so do you measure it in terms of traction? Or do you measure it in terms of impact?
Okay.
Diba?
Yes.
So far, yung mga iba, the response has been very good, I suppose.
You like it.
I like it.
It inspires you
It inspires
to
you.
go on.
So yeah, it inspires us.
Okay.
Even if, of course, you have to be financially viable. No? But as much as I can, it's really about telling stories. I'm lucky.
Yes.
I get to do this, and I get to work with someone like Victory Liner who actually likes and believes in that. So I'm working with people that I can be compensated doing
What you
things that
love.
I want to do.
Yes.
Yeah, because they appreciate it. So hopefully.
What are you working on now?
Well, we just shot a feature on the Gadang. Gadang. It's another indigenous group in the Cordilleras.
Okay.
Katabi niya yung mga Kalinga.
Okay.
It's in Paracelis. It's in the mountain province. So because the latest Gamaba in Gawad Manlilikan ng Bayan, National Living Treasure, they just awarded the latest 9 this year. So one of them is a beader embroiderer from the Gadang tribe. Yeah. So
Okay,
we
so
did a
that's
feature
what
on her.
Nice.
And the entire process of yung kanilang garment ensemble, yung kanilang ensemble of, from the headdress, head to foot, and how they do beading and embroidery,
Nice.
and the entire ensemble. So we did that.
Okay. Okay. So, nako, wala na tayong oras.
Oh, nako.
I have so many questions. Is there anything you would like to say to our viewers before we end it?
Well, stories are there. We want to be able to tell them, and hopefully, if there are people willing to watch, willing to, then there will be storytellers. Okay, ito pala last.
Nice.
Yung-
There will be storytellers.
In Africa, there is, they have a person called a griot. All the tribes have a griot. Griot. Okay, a griot is the repository of all the stories of the tribes passed on, handed on, and he keeps that and tells it. Pag campfire, nagkukwento yan. Passes on. Tapos, yung sabi nga ni Dave Chappelle dun sa kanyang sa kwento ni Dave Chappelle, when a griot dies, it's like nasunog yung library. Okay, so parang where we are, filmmaking and documentary filmmaking, we want to be part of that storytelling tradition. And you want to be able to archive and consolidate and continue passing on the stories. Yeah. So we want people to be griots or to gather around the griots. So there's always that transfer of knowledge, of culture, of belief systems, so forth and so on. Yeah.
I really love that. That
Si Dave
idea.
Chappelle, narinig ko yan kay Dave Chappelle. So that really, Dave Chappelle, komedyante yan, but yeah,
Sinabi niya yun.
sinabi niya yan. So I said, wow, okay.
That's a very good
Yeah.
way of putting it and putting perspective on the kind of work that you do, the kind of your passion is, going to do for our culture. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you
for
for
having me.
joining us this afternoon. I know, biglaan, pero thank you, and thank you everyone for watching Pairfect. We'll see you next week. This has been Dinah Ventura.